Hey there, it's Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. Before we get into the next episode, I wanted to ask that you subscribe to the show. It'll help us get even more unique and interesting guests on the podcast and in turn continue to educate management teams and the growing ecosystem that creates value for fast-growing private and public companies. And while you're at it, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Very much appreciated.
Every university, every hospital setting is studying kefir and talking about the benefits.
For thousands of years, people in Eastern Europe have been drinking kefir, a fermented dairy drink. Now, people around the world are waking up to its incredible health benefits, and for one U.S. company, that's created a tremendous opportunity.
In Europe, people use a fermented dairy product like kefir every single day. In America, we're at about 10 cups per year. So that just tells you how much of a long runway we have for more consumption of fermented dairy.
My name is Tom Ryan, and this is Welcome to the Arena, the ICR podcast. Each week, I sit down with today's business leaders to give you an inside scoop on some of America's most prosperous public companies, their origins, their challenges, and the keys to their success. Today's guest is Julie Smolyansky, who in 2002 became the youngest female CEO of a publicly traded company when she took over Lifeway Foods at the age of 27. Since then, Julie has propelled the business forward with innovative product development and marketing, bringing kefir into the mainstream. The company generated over $200 million in revenue in 2025 and expanded distribution to Mexico, the UK, and Ireland, along with various regions in Central and South America and the Caribbean. Julie also released her first book in 2018, The Kefir Cookbook, an ancient healing superfood for modern life, recipes from my family table and around the world. She's also one of the few repeat guests we've had on the show, which means she must be doing something right. Let's enter the arena with Julie Smolyansky. So for those that might be new to the brand, tell us about the history of Lifeway.
Yeah, it's a 2,000-year-old exciting product that originated in the Caucasus Mountains, down where like Ukraine and Russia is. And it's a staple in these communities by my ancestors. And it's a recipe that really was the beginning of our food system and the process of preserving dairy and extending shelf life. It was really a preservation technique that was accidentally stumbled upon. And when the live active bacteria, the live cultures, inoculate the milk, there is a fermentation process that happens and there is a chemical reaction and there's a tremendous amount of health benefits that are associated with that fermentation process. And this process was passed down generation to generation from babushka, grandmother to grandmother, and survived through word of mouth, through storytelling, because of the tremendous amounts of health benefits that people experienced. They felt better when they consumed kefir. They considered it a gift from the gods. And those people lived past 100 years of age, and they attributed their longevity through their consumption, because of their consumption of kefir. In 1908, Dr. Elie Metchnikoff, who's the father of immunity, he did the first rounds of medical studies around kefir fermentation and lactic acid, which is the byproduct of the fermentation process, and found that there is a real tremendous health benefit to the gut, to the overall body, and overall wellness when people consume kefir. In that 100 years' time, the science and research is finally catching up to what my ancestors for 2,000 years have known. And today, there is a record number of research. Every university, every hospital setting is studying kefir and talking about the benefits. And we are only now just learning about the microbiome around friendly bacteria, why it's important, and the mental health benefits through the mind-gut axis, the vagus nerve. And today's research shows that kefir can help reduce stress, depression, anxiety. So there's a real mental health component, which is so critical. There's a skin health benefit through the skin-gut axis. We haven't even scratched the surface. We don't know what we don't know. But there's a lot that we are learning. And it's really cool to see AI really helping this global conversation around microbiome and why it's so important, not just to take any probiotic, but a dairy-based fermented product with high-quality bioavailable protein And we really brought this, my family and I, we immigrated when we came to the United States in 1976. I was one. We escaped the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And my father couldn't believe that there was no kefir in America. And, for 2,000 years, our people, our ancestors consumed it from cradle to grave. Everybody consumed kefir, and they used it medicinally. Today, that is finally like catching on in America. And most recently, 4 days ago, it was so exciting to see that the government validated what we're trying to say and what we've actively gone and tried to lobby for so many decades.
Yeah.
But the fact that kefir is explicitly mentioned in the food pyramid and fermentation and gut health is
You must have almost fainted when that came out, right?
My phone was buzzing. I mean, the White House quoted us. We put out a press release applauding their efforts, but this is something that we have lobbied and gone to DC for and asked for. And this is a public health issue. The fact that we don't know a lot about fermented products. And in America, we haven't scratched the surface on consumption of fermented. And in Europe, people use a fermented dairy product like kefir every single day. And so it's 28 cups per person per month. In America, we're at about 10 cups per year.
Yeah.
So that just tells you how much of a long runway we have for more consumption of fermented dairy. And the fact that it's available everywhere, whether you're at Walmart, mainstream America, or at Air One in Los Angeles, people are buying kefir, and there's something there for everyone through Lifeway. So that's really exciting.
When you took over in 2002, what was the product line like? What was the distribution like? And kind of take us forward 20 years, like around COVID.
Yeah.
Because I know you've had like tremendous growth in the last 5 years in particular, but kind of what was that period from 2002 to maybe 2020? Like, how did you grow that business? At such a young age, I might add. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very proud of what we've done, what I've done. Well, when my dad launched it was obviously zero. He launched in 86, took it public in 88. We were part of the peace process. The White House heard about the crazy Russian Soviet immigrant who was living the American dream with a product that was unheard of, with a staple Slavic product. So Reagan called, the White House called and said, well, I'm going to Moscow to meet with Gorbachev. Can you send us some product? My dad sent a case of Lifeway Kefir over, and Reagan did bring it over to Gorbachev.
That's unbelievable.
Had the most amazing opportunity to meet Gorbachev in 2013, and he remembered the product, the brand, the story, was such a fan, was like, keep going, keep showing what our people can do. But it was really part of that process where, we said, like Reagan said, look at what your immigrants are doing in our country with your foods, like tear down this wall because you're losing brain power, you're losing your people. So, that helped really catapult Lifeway to a new place and brought us to a broader market. And at the time, we thought that was tremendous, but we had so much growth. And when my dad passed away in 2002, we were about a $10 million business.
Yep.
About 70 employees. Today, we're about a 300 employee base. Some would say, 500 if you expand out all the other employees that we serve. And then we just announced about $210 million in revenue, just a little over $210 million in revenue.
Unbelievable.
We have over $20 million in the bank, $25 million in the bank. So we're making money, we're profitable, we have a pristine balance sheet. We've worked really hard to get that. We've continued to be on trend for 50 million EBITDA by 2027. And, we are experiencing double-digit growth in our farmer's cheese, which is twaróg, which is like a soft, unripened, kind of like a pressed cottage cheese or a blended cottage cheese, similar to that. And that's experiencing almost triple-digit growth. So
cottage cheese is exploding.
It's exploding. We're a part of that. Yeah. We've really...
Who would have thought?
Yeah. I mean, they really made it relevant for today's consumer, and we are part of that. I would say that farmer cheese is like a recipe hack, so you don't have to blend it. It's spreadable. It's like an open canvas, so you can use it sweet, savory, do a lot with it, cook with it. And we got farmer cheese into 4,000 new stores last year. So Walmart took it in 2,000 stores, Albertsons, and a lot of other stores. So we're really excited to see the opportunity in farmer cheese, and really the fact that people are looking for high quality bioavailable protein. So not just lab synthetic protein. You can't just throw protein into everything like we see, like protein water. I think that's a fad, but real high quality bioavailable protein is something that's going to be sticking and is not going away. And it is part of that GLP-1ification of food. And the fact that we really need it, and we're really understanding how much under eating of protein that we are doing. And the fact that the government is kind of validating and reinforcing that is tremendous.
So The last 5 years in particular, there's been significant value creation, and I think that stems from consistent results. What happened in the last 5 years where the business has, I don't want to say matured, but gotten to a point where you're really delivering consistent financial performance? What's been going on? What do you attribute to that?
Yeah, I think it was not accidental. It was strategic and intentional. We, in about 2018, announced Lifeway 2.0, which kind of recalibrated the business. Some operational changes, some product mix changes, portfolio mix changes, strategic steps. Of course, at the same time, there was this anti-dairy movement, plant-based movement, which is largely behind us. When COVID happened, people went back to essentials. They went back to what's nourishing, what fills them, what nourishes them, what heals them. This attention to science and understanding and hacking our wellness, hacking our lifestyles. And the idea of like longevity is something that really is on top of everyone's mind. Everyone from Brian Johnson to Joe Rogan to, I can name a list of all these people that are biohacking. And that's something that's trickling down to yoga moms, to teenagers, to everybody. Really, Lifeway is part of that conversation. But it's really great to see dairy's never really went away. We know that dairy was going to come back. It's not going anywhere. It's the most nutritious, most studied, what I would say is most important in our food group. So again, great to see the government reinforcing that. But yeah, I mean, with COVID, it brought a silver lining of people going back to what works, what they know, the brands they trust, authentic brands that lead with integrity, with real people behind them, with real stories behind them. You can't create my story. It's real. It's lived experience.
It's a movie.
It is a movie. I've been working on it.
Yeah.
Book number 2 is coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what's really interesting to people, being available there to our communities, being out there is important. I'm accessible. I'm on Instagram. I'm out there. I'm a real person. And I think that really resonates with today's consumer, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. We leaned into our social media a long time. We were one of the first brands on social media. We even had a MySpace page. So we are really leaning into it. And Vogue magazine actually at some point said our early use of social media gave us an avant-garde status and a cult-like following. And I would say that's true. But seeing, Walmart really understanding how important that they bring in these kinds of healthy foods, that it's not just for the people out in LA or the people out in New York and West Village, but really for everybody, every person in the world should be consuming Lifeway Kefir and some of the other products that we're making, but really meeting consumers where they are. So there is a big need for functionality in food. We want our food to do more for us. So that's why we launched Kefir with collagen, Muscle Mates, which is kefir with creatine. Very, very important for all of us, women, men, everybody. It's not just for iron pumping muscle guys, but everybody's using creatine, including teenagers. And colostrum, building on that immune system. People are really understanding that. We've had a product with colostrum for 30 years. We launched a product called Basics Plus. We relaunched that recently. So lots of cool kind of innovations that we're bringing that really meet the moment and the consumer. And we're really excited. Today, we just announced kefir butter. So again, sticking to what we know best, which is cultured, fermented dairy foods. And there's kind of a refocus back on fats like butter and real butter, not margarine, not, fake lab created synthetic ingredients, but real old world butter.
Yeah,
so it's cool.
I gotcha. You remind me of, how like Michael Saylor is to Bitcoin, you are as to Kefir, right?
That's right.
Because really, you've got
the
the product, you've got the innovation. Now it's just like, bam, get the word out to the world. And I did want to drill down a little bit more because I know you have like a very active digital presence, and that's been a real innovative thing for you. Maybe talk about specifically how you approach social media and marketing, particularly, you're not a $10 million business in 2002. You're a big business growing, a lot of potential. How do you approach marketing, getting the word out?
Yeah, we always want to be ahead and leading some of those conversations. So like I mentioned, we were early to social media. We have continued to lean into our influencers, our advocates, our ambassadors. And we work with everyone from a range from like the medical field and nutritionists, scientists, doctors, to everyday influencers, to fitness influencers, to chefs, to moms just looking for quick convenience on the go. So we have an entire range of people. So we don't have one particular demographic that we try to hit because really everyone is using Lifeway Kefir today. So yeah, we approach it like that, very open to more collaborations with more influencers, creating those viral content, viral moments.
Yeah.
taking our events, whatever we do in person, activations that we do. For example, we had our first ever drone show. We had our first ever NASCAR show. Creating that content and then amplifying it on social. So those live events really live on forever on our social when we reshare that. And, I think we've just done a really great job in building that authentic, real community on social.
Totally.
And then, we are really leaning into AI today. We know we've learned a lot about AI. And we're really looking at how AI and chat today is creating menus for people, giving them their recipes, doing shopping for people. And we're really leaning into that as well in a lot of different ways.
These days, you can't really have a conversation about health or health foods without talking about GLP-1s. So I asked Julie how she sees the popularity of these drugs impacting the marketplace and the effect that it might have on her business.
We are the perfect food that works with GLP-1s. We're really well aware of it. The GLP-1ification of food, like mini sizes, we're really leaning into the shots. But it's really important for people who are on GLP-1s. And 15% of Americans are currently on a GLP-1. That's only going to increase as the drugs become more popular, more awareness around them grows, the safety factors become more known. And the fact that they're coming in a pill form also makes it easier for folks to start using. So one of the most important things when you're on a GLP-1 is your protein needs need to go way up because it's taking away muscle mass. So kind of the focus on high protein, real bioavailable, high quality protein, and then probiotics. But not just any probiotic, but fermented dairy is really, really important for gut health because there's a number of gastrointestinal issues that happen with the GLP-1. So Kefir and Lifeway is really an integral part of GLP-1 usage, and it's only going to grow.
Yeah. How about your distribution when you look out over the next few years? You're obviously shipping product internationally. Are we in the first inning of that?
First inning.
So
we haven't scratched the surface.
Where do you kind of have now, and what do you aspire to in the next few years in terms of international distribution?
Yeah, well, Kefir is a global category, and we own that category. We are 97% of the category, and we are the number one brand in Mexico. This is something we've led just for the last 10 years even, and we have a huge opportunity in Mexico. We're sold at Walmart, Costco, Suprema, every grocery in Mexico. That's going to expand. We have a great partner that we're doing a lot with. Right now we're exporting, but we're definitely looking at making it there in Mexico, making it more cost-effective, efficient, and reducing the transportation time and whatnot. So more in Mexico. We are sold in all of the islands of the Caribbean. We're in South Africa, UAE, Dubai, which is very, very interesting demographic shifting happening there. Very exciting to see. Unfortunately, as a result of the war in Russia, Ukraine, we had a lot of those shifting immigrants down to UAE, Dubai. So again, a natural marketplace, similar to how when Lifeway launched in America, we had the natural market of the Soviet immigrants who did not need marketing or advertising around Kefir because they knew it. And so that's happening in UAE regions as well. So we're definitely leaning into that and working with some of our partners there to get more distribution there. This is a global play for sure.
Yeah,
and,
big time.
Because of social media, there are no more borders. When we make videos in Chicago or, content creators making videos in LA or New York, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's viral. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible. When you think about, we're sitting here in January of 2026, how do you think about the product portfolio evolving over time? I know you mentioned briefly that you've added some new things that have kefir in it, but are for different niche markets. How do you think about innovation in the product portfolio and that evolving over the next few years?
Yeah, I think, first of all, flavor profiles. I think we're really leaning into new flavors and, going outside of just plain strawberry, blueberry, peach. That's been kind of our core flavors. But today, I think Gen Z, Alpha, they want to travel the world through their palate, through the foods that they buy at the grocery store. And so, we've most recently introduced flavors like matcha latte, taro ube, pink dragon fruit inspired by Starbucks pink drink, pistachio rose vanilla inspired by the Dubai chocolate bar. So, lychee, like really leaning into these unique flavors that are first to market. There's no other fermented dairy products that have these very unique special flavors. So it is really bringing in a new demographic into the category. And then different sizes. We're known for our 32 ounce, but the introduction of our 8 ounce and our little shots.
The shots seem to be like a huge fad, like companies that have like a shot for your liver, a shot for this, a shot for that.
Shots are huge. People want to do their, food stuff quick, easy. Shots and the 8 ounce, it gives us another usage opportunity to get them when they're out living their lives in travel. We're at vending machines at airports, like at O'Hare. We're in college campuses. Folks on the road can stop at like a 7-Eleven or CVS and pick it up. So there's all of these opportunities in that way as well. It's a lot more distribution still to unlock with new sizes, new flavors, and giving people something new.
Yeah. I always think like companies can only do so much every year. What are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you're like really zeroed in on in 2026?
Yeah, well, getting some of the new innovations out, because we did a lot of innovation last year.
Yeah.
So getting like muscle mates out, getting our colostrum out, and some of those products that we talked about. We just launched the Kefir butter, cultured butter, getting that out into the marketplace. Really focused on that. And then really raising awareness around those federal guidelines and the food pyramid. I think that trickle-down impact is going to be huge. And that's about education and awareness. Really working with those partners that we already have, those relationships that we have with our nutritionists, doctors, dietitians, folks that are in the medical field that are also able to explain what we're trying to say and that science, and explain it for lay people. And that always trickles down into mass. Then we'll get the Washington Post and the New York Times and all of those kind of mainstream news outlets start to report on it. But it does change the conversation and impact buying decisions.
So with the value that's been created in the last 5 years, and obviously with 200+ million in revenue, I have to think it can't just be you. You need a big team around you.
We have a great team.
Talk about the team, because when people, I think, look at investing with you and they want to know, like, you're on it, you have an amazing team, and we're moving forward. Talk about the team.
Yeah, I'm so proud of our team. To your point, nothing can be done just by one person alone.
Yeah.
And, it takes a village, and we have an amazing, amazing team. We have almost zero turnover, which speaks to our tremendous, wonderful culture, which, if you look at what happened during COVID and people just quitting companies, nobody left. People stayed with us, and that gave us this resiliency and ability to go through those challenging times. And so, we have very little turnover. We have a management team that has been battle tested and has gone through and understands this market better than I would say anybody. We have, multi-decades of leadership by our team. And that's everything from digital to operations and financials and the whole gamut of running the company. So I don't like to micromanage. And I think that they are just doing an excellent job of executing. And we have a real entrepreneurial spirit, a real can-do spirit. And it's really exciting to see just how we all have come together to go through these challenges and how supportive everyone is and aligned on this mission of bringing Lifeway to as many households as we can in every way we can.
How do you keep the authenticity of the brand, what your dad started, what you've carried on as you become, 200 million and 300 and 400 and 500? How do you keep that authenticity in there? It's really the culture of the business, right?
Yeah.
Culture, no pun intended.
Yeah, right. It's right. I think we just continue to stay true to what we know and what we're good at. And, I am out there personally sharing the story. I'm the biggest advocate for Lifeway and Kefir and fermented foods and gut health. And I think we just keep on, keep telling that story. And, it's happening, like I said, it's entered the zeitgeist. We are part of the culture right now.
Yeah.
And we're creating that culture. We're really I would say tastemakers. We were a word on Wordle and we were an answer on Jeopardy, fermentation. Really? Yeah. The question is, what is
fermentation for 500?
Exactly. It was what is the process that kefir kimchi go through, and the answer is fermentation.
That's cool.
So cool. We had our first NASCAR, really bringing kefir to a new audience.
I'll say.
Yeah, for sure. We had our first ever drone show. We had the first ever kefir drone show in the world. So I'm super proud of it. We had National Kefir Day. We really put the flag in the ground and owning that day, and that will be International Kefir Day this year. So yeah, we had proclamations by number of cities and states that said, this is National Kefir Day. So, education.
Yeah, there's like a lot to work with.
So much to work with. The guidelines, the federal guidelines are going to give us 10 years of things to talk about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
How about when you sit down with investors, what do you think they miss when they're assessing the value of the business? Like, sometimes you have these meetings and it's like the person, like it goes over their head. What do you think they miss in terms of the company as an investment and the value in the company that they may not really appreciate?
Well, it's like owning the entire category.
Right.
We have 97% of the growing category that we created, that we're not just a new startup that's like, oh, we're going to try this. And like, it's organic, real growth. We didn't just pay for slotting dollars, but we have sustainable, real sticky growth, sticky customers. And, we're not just a one-off product. We're not just 4 SKUs of kefir. We're a platform company for so many other fermented foods. When I look at some of our core customers, and I'm talking like ethnic markets, if you go to Miami and visit Net Cost or Brooklyn, Brighton Beach, in Chicago, Farm Fresh, all these like ethnic markets, there's 300 SKUs of Lifeway.
Yeah, wow.
300. And that's split between 150 SKUs of Lifeway drinkable kefir products and 150 Lifeway farmer cheese products. That's the future of the dairy case. It's 300 facings of Lifeway products, 300 facings of fermented like kefir and farmer cheese. And then, like I said, like cultured butter, this isn't like a far step from what we already know and what we already do. And so seeing kind of a return to real food, moving away from ultra-processed food, it gives us a real opportunity to get in there and meet the consumer where they are.
Yeah.
And so, that's, I think, missed, and that's a misconception. And there's still a lot just on the product side that people don't know about, that we're still learning about, but really excited to see all the science kind of catching up with what our ancestors all intuitively in their gut knew. Another pun. So many puns. We can go so many ways. And just overall, just like a lot of noise in the headlines. But I would say our metrics speak for themselves. And, I consider it like we're on a surfboard, and no matter what the ocean is like, whether it's rocky or it's small waves or big waves, we hold steady and we ride those waves. And I think, we've been doing it with the steady hand for 4 decades now. So I think the wind is at our back.
That was Julie Smolyansky, the longtime CEO of Lifeway Foods. The company's turned a niche product into something with increasingly mass adoption and a global footprint. From here, Julie and the team are really focused on the product portfolio, expansion, distribution, and getting the word out, which she is great at. And I think if the last 5 years are any indicator of the next 5, this company is really one to pay attention to, because they're the real deal and they just own the category. There's no other way to say it. I'm Tom Ryan, and we'll see you next time back in the arena.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.